Well, it's time for episode 50 of Commentator's Corner, and I'm really, really pleased to have someone who is making her own way into motorsport, not just as a driver, but also as a fellow sim racing and in real life commentator. She's also an expert host in the Formula One paddock and has been to 12 of the 2023 FIA Formula One World Championship events. Herzlich willkommen, Laura Luft. Good to see you, and thank you so much for jumping on board. How are things, and how was your holiday season over Christmas and New Year? First of all,
Thanks so much, Alex, for inviting me. It's a pleasure that we just both talk now as fellow commentators. And yeah, I had a great start. I hope you had as well a nice festive season. It was quite relaxing. But yeah, as we know, the winter season for motorsport fans is quite harsh in that sense because nothing's going on. I can't wait to get the season to be started.
yeah. Now I mentioned sim racing because you're one of the regular voices on the ADAC Sim Racing Cup. Just recently, that's gotten back underway for 2024. How did you get involved with sim racing commentary, first of all, Laura? And then we'll get onto the real life stuff in just a minute.
Yeah, that's funny because I initially, when you start from karting, you had no chance to actually get into sim racing, and I haven't heard of it. I mean, I heard of it, but I never was attached to it. So 2018, yeah, a boss of a sim racing center where I trained then for my real racing said, "Oh yeah, we do have a series coming up Saturday. Do you want to commentate?" I'm like, "Yeah, can do that." So literally he pushed me into this, and then I was in front of the mic, and it was really, really fun. I had no idea what iRacing was, Assetto Corsa. I'm like, what are we talking about? So I just actually knew then, of course, the simulation I was driving on, but I had to understand what's going on in the sim world, and then from there, yeah, it was attached to me kind of. So I'm still continuing in this.
Yeah, and then of course you've also done a lot of real life commentary, especially with the DMV, with the BMW Cup series. But then, it's quite funny because one of my previous guests, who we both personally know, Danny Juicer, you've both raced in the German Team Championship, the GTC, as you went through the ranks. But then, of course, the biggest highlight, the 2023 ADAC 24 Hours of the Nürburgring Nordschleife. You ended up getting into the car with Adrenalin Motorsport and had a great race weekend, and also picked up third place in class as well. That's been one of your biggest highlights so far when it comes to racing, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely it is. So the long ways of climbing up the ladder in karting motorsport, it's a good grounding area for people to literally just get the knowledge and also train with fellows, and then also literally know what the physics are in a car. You can just kind of relate it if you just come from racing in go-karts. But my ultimate dream was always to drive on a Nordschleife, and this is like my biggest dream come true. So it took a long time and some detours, but at least since 2016, when I just started to realize I want to just not only drive in karts but also in race cars, I just made that step and just put all my financials into this, and it paid off. And I'm really happy that I did because that's totally amazing. And I'm not sure if you can see this. This is my big trophy over there,
Yep.
standing in my room. So yeah, you can't describe it. 24 hours race is insane. And as you also know, karting, this is where also 24 hours races do make fun. They are more exhausting, to be honest. It's a different story, but still, this passion from 24 hours racing, yeah, just took me up from the beginning.
Just give the viewers and listeners an understanding from a race driver perspective, because not only when you go for the main event itself, you've also got to qualify as well, and that's an even bigger pressure to put on a demand as a racing driver. Just talk us through what happened for you when you went through to do the qualifying race, and then obviously to be there on the grid where you got thousands and thousands of people on the grid trying to get autographs, trying to get pictures before the grid is being cleared. Just talk to us about the process of going through the qualifiers and then getting into the race and competing, just like from start to finish in your own time.
Yeah, actually, it was 1 year pause because my last race was quite a long time ago when I stepped into the qualification race straight off. So I had no practice besides on my simulator. which you maybe can see on that side where my seat is. That's the only time what I had to practice before the qualifiers. And I had a complete different team. So it was not clear if the drivers who were on my car would actually drive the 24 hours because they had some permit stuff going on and also needed the financials. And we ended up like also in third position. Luckily that we managed to get through because we had kind of the same pace. But in the race, actually, then I had completely new teammates. So I knew some of them quite in person, I would say, but not like being best friends and having seen them quite often in the pit, though you just know each other. And then I had one I didn't have an idea of who he was. And then literally on that day, we just met and we're like, all right, this will be fun because it clicked, right? And we were the only team, I would say, which was relaxed, knew from the beginning how the strategy was. We had 5 minutes discussion, who is starting the race, who's finishing it, what we do in between. The strategy was clear and we went into the race. And I'm like, okay, this is a good, promising start. And we all aligned and agreed on what we want to do. And we finished this up. And I wanted actually to race. I could have raced before due to COVID times because I had my permit A, but this was not my goal. I wanted to have it like before actually the fans were back and embrace the atmosphere on the 24 hours race. So this is why I waited to actually have the fans back. And this was amazing spectacle. I mean, so many fans out there on the grid, and we had actually an autograph session, which also not was there a few years ago. It was, I think, back then in 2020 too as well. But yeah, last year it was even further that they enhanced. Every driver should be having a table to prepare autographs, and I couldn't believe it that people wanted to speak to me there. And I'm like, I'm not a star, but it's so great to talk to young kids and others who have no idea that I was racing with the team, and I was the only girl in that team at that time. And they were like, "Are you the only female racing?" I'm like, "Yep, for this team, yes, but we do have some other girls in other teams racing." So this was kind of a nice situation, and seeing all the fans around, feeling the atmosphere in the car, especially, that's what I wanted to embrace. But it was you can't describe it. You have to have it one time. You have to be in the car, and it's the best experience ever.
Yeah, I keep on getting invited by friends of mine within the karting community. Come on, let's go and have a party at the Nordschleife. You know, when there are people cooking barbecues where you can actually, and I've heard it from drivers such as Augustus Arfus and other people that I know, and they said, yeah, you can smell the sausages when you're going, like, say
Yeah.
through Brünchen or Carousel or the Flugplatz. You know, it's they said it's like one of these atmospheres that you never quite, you never know what it's really like until you're there in person. And I think one of the nice things about the ADAC 24 Hours of the Nürburgring Nordschleife for 2024 is that it becomes part of the Intercontinental GT Challenge, for which is so cool. I'm really glad to see that the Nürburgring Nordschleife is getting a lot more recognition now because it's been around for so many years. Um, but along with your racing exploits, you've also been part of the F1 Paddock expert host team, and there are a couple of people, one of which who I actually used to, well, I know quite well through when he used to race, Dan Wells. He's been in the paddock quite a few times, and also another female racer who is returning to the British Touring Car Championship for 2024, Jade Edwards, has also been. So you've had the pleasure of working alongside them. It must be quite a really, really big visceral feeling, having grown up as a Formula One fan, to then find yourself working at multiple different locations. I think you were in Saudi Arabia at the Jeddah Corniche circuit, the Lusail International Circuit in Qatar. I think also Abu Dhabi for Yas Marina for the season finale. It must be sort of like a pinch yourself moment at times when you're thinking, I'm really enjoying this job, but I can't believe what I'm doing, that I'm actually talking to people and giving them sort of like explanations just so they can understand, because there's a lot of work, a lot of preparation that as a paddock expert host that you need to go into, a bit like commentating, isn't it?
It's true, and you described it really well because that's actually every moment still. I mean, I worked since 2021 with the team, but it's always the same situation. I have to punch myself and can't believe that I'm living my second dream, actually working with F1, because I follow F1 since I'm 10 and never missed a race, even at 4 o'clock in the morning when we had to get up. So this is, you can't believe it that you have this opportunity now to just be in the paddock, be in the grid, walk with the guests, and explain them our passion. And especially as you mentioned, yeah, working with these phenomenal drivers, which I admired, like being okay. I'm like a fangirl, right? And you just talk to them like normal people. Now we are one team. This is really great because we have so many nationalities and we all get along quite well. This gives you so much, and especially also when you see that you can transport this passion you have to others who might not be hooked up from the beginning and maybe have no idea what Formula One really is like behind the scenes. And then they come back from the tours, they're like, oh, this is amazing. And I never knew that. So this is really, really great to see that. And so we try to give more, yeah, more fun to our guests.
How did that opportunity come about as well? Because obviously, it's by having that racing experience, you can actually really sort of convey that passion, that enthusiasm of what exactly the cars do. You can say it in a relatable term where the people can go like, yeah, cool, I didn't really know that. And when it's people that are coming to the F1 paddock for the first time, like they've been like invited by friends, like saying, yeah, let's go to F1 this weekend, well, you'll have the premium experience, you'll have people who know what they're talking about, and there'll be special guests from the paddock, like say in the F1 paddock, there's been like David Coulthard, Mika Hakkinen, who have raced in Formula One. So some of you guys have been able to interview them in front of a live audience who have really sort of like got to know all these great stories from the pantheon of Formula One. How did the opportunity come about for you, Laura?
Yeah, the good thing is, as we are female drivers, still in the minor sense, we connect to each other. So, and I happen to bump into Celia Martin on the Nordschleife quite often because, I mean, we can count by hand how many ladies are driving there regularly or being involved in the Nürburgring. So I just followed her on Instagram, and we just regularly also drove together in some parts and testing. Yeah, and I just saw her once standing in at the Red Bull Ring having a paddock club or a paddock access card. And I'm like, oh, what are you doing there? This sounds interesting. And then she said, yeah, I'm working with them. It was 2019, I think, when she started. And then I said, how did you come about this? And it's like, yeah, mouth to mouth propaganda, and you have to know someone from the inside. And she also got invited by someone. So this is like not an official job you can apply for. And I said, would you mind just sending them my CV? Because I do commentary. I'm an event manager full time. I know how to organize people. I work with clients, high level ones internationally as well. So yeah, we just maybe if that's an option, can you help me? And she's like, yeah, I will send it over. And a few weeks later, I got the call. I'm like, wow, I'm just, and I talk to her all the time. I'm really thankful that she gave me the opportunity and helped me with that step. And now, funnily, people come to me asking me, can you help me? Like Michelle Halder, for example, she also wanted to join the team. Now she's also with the team, or Lukas Krajewski, one of the commentators in Germany. So this is nice if people approach you then, and you can be helpful again to enhance the team. And yeah, it's great to work with everyone there. It's another world, I have to say, and I'm blessed all the time when I have the chance to work with his team.
I think it's also being about speaking to the right person at the right place at the right
Yeah.
time, folks, because all of us in this industry have got there not just by passion, not just by dedication, but by putting the feelers out. What I mean by that is, if so, like Lara just said with regards to Celia Martin, ask the question, because you're either going to get told one or two things. Yeah, sure, or no, I can't
No.
really. So it's like with me, I've been in the right place at the right time. It's like with the ADAC Sim Racing Expo. I got the opportunity. I was invited by the previous organizer through one of their employees, saying, who contacted one of my friends, who then contacted me and said, "Do you fancy doing it?" I said, "Yeah, I'll be up for that." And then the next thing you know, here we are in 2024, the 10th year of the ADAC Sim Racing Expo, at the Dortmund Messe between the 18th and the 20th of October. It's going to be my fourth year of involvement. And it is right place, right time, speaking to the right people. And if you feel that I'm really, really nervous, just pluck up a little bit of courage and just ask, because they will respect you for doing it, but they may
Mhm.
not give you the answer you want. And yeah, there are rejections in this business. I mean, I've had times when I've had an opportunity and it's not quite worked out. I had an opportunity to join a GT championship not that long ago, and I'm not going to say much about it, but I could do the majority of the calendar. I didn't get the gig. I was like, okay, there'll be other opportunities to come. And you know that firsthand as well, Lara, because if you don't ask the question, you never find out at the end of the day.
Exactly, and you have to do it. So normally I'm not like really an outspoken person. If people know me from when I was little in school, I'm like not the one who wants to be in the front. So I'm kind of shy if I have to meet new people, which sounds weird because that's actually not what my job is and how I get into motorsport. But I'm always like observing before I literally make my step because I don't want to be in everybody's shoes or just on their toes and asking stuff. But this took me because it was a female, this was easier than for me to talk to, but still now I have this feeling it worked out once. And as you said, you have rejections, but I cope with them quite well because I say, well, this is my package, take it or leave it. And not in a hard way, but this is how it is. So I'm not upset if it doesn't work. I also had now where I applied for a commentary job, but someone else was more suitable. That's fine. So but just you have to do it because I never want to look back and regret, oh, I should have, right? So this is the worst you can say. For me, it's always like if there is an opportunity and I have to come out of my comfort zone, I don't like potentially moderating events, right? It's standing in front of people. I rather be behind the mic like now. So this is more like my area of ground and commentating. But people saw me like moderating. They say, look, you can do this. Just come on board. And I'm always have to push myself to go out on stage and say, this is now my moment. I have to go through it, even if I really don't like it sometimes, right? So this is this just makes you grow and you see the potential, others see the potential in you as well. You just add it to your portfolio. And this is why I'm so thankful that all these opportunities, like commentating on sim racing, I never thought of that this would be like actually a job for me, so to say.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just take it as it comes, as you said.
It's quite funny because a lot of people might want to know about my sim racing commentary journey. When we had Corona, when we had the pandemic, um, everything karting wise was shut down. I was on how we would say in the UK would have been furlough, but it would have been Arbeitsurlaub in Germany. So effectively, you would get a big chunk of your salary, but you would not be allowed to work for the company, and it would be documented. So even during COVID-19, I was like thinking, oh, when's the karting calendar going to start up again? And we were told, okay, it's going to be June. No, it's going to be July.
Yeah.
And it was, and everything, I mean, even Formula One didn't start until we
Mhm.
had the Austrian Grand Prix and then the Steiermark Grand Prix, like literally back to back, where they played two different anthems in the same country, representing the same country as well, over the course of two back to back weekends. And then in May, I got advised to contact Team Brit because they need a commentator, and I said to them, "I'll do it. All I want is an E Team Brit T-shirt. That's all I asked for. I wanted to get my foot in the door and have fun and keep my commentary going." And I did the rest of the season, and then things sort of started snowballing. I started working with different leagues, doing lead commentary, doing color commentary, and then to now be where I am. If someone was to say to me that in 2024 you'd be the lead voice of the Sim Racing Expo, I would have told you, "What have you been smoking?" Or, "Have you been drinking too much coffee and got the Christian Horner Red Bull jiggle again?" Um, but it's, I was sort of like, if the pandemic hadn't happened, I was probably thinking maybe 2022, 2023, I would have looked to step into that. So COVID-19, I think, gave us all an outfit, didn't it, Lara? Where we all
Mhm.
had the opportunity. Yes, we were all stuck at home. We could only go out every so often, whether it was for shopping or trip to the doctors or for if you were traveling like I was, having to go and do PCR tests, which I never want to do. No one wants to do again.
No.
My worst experience was Bahrain in 2021. I was contacted by Rotax to do the daily reports on their website. Um, and they went, okay, yeah, not a problem at all. So got all the visas sorted out, was fully vaccinated, went over. I think we landed, I think it was like 11:30 at night. And the one at the airport was fine. It was like, think, no problem. The ones at
What
the
happened?
circuit, I don't want to relive that ever again. Because at that point, my hay fever started kicking in, and they did one of the PCR tests, and I didn't. My sinuses were fine for the rest of the week. That's how bad it was. And I walked out, and one of the other drivers who I knew very well, he went, how was it? And I went, oh, that's cleared my sinuses, like literally. And I had tears running down my face, so they could see that it wasn't exactly peaceful,
Mhm.
let's say. Um, but yeah, I think it's just like, I mean, sim racing. We see a lot of great talent in sim racing as well, and I still remember being in Nuremberg for the Sim Racing Expo that year, and I still remember a young man by the name of Sean Terra who came along. His dad came along to me whilst I was on the commentary box, and he said, "Yeah, he's the youngest guy in there." And now Sean and I message each other on Instagram. There's so many great young talents out there in sim racing, isn't there, Lara?
It's great to see also when they progress from like being juniors to actually driving a 333 car, exactly what we see in the Sim Racing Cup, because you have multiple steps to come in and they actually stick with it for a long time and you see how they progress. There are so many other young drivers who really have a great talent. And also, as we see with Tim Heinemann and all the others who actually made it from sim to real, the potential is there. Also, we both love karting, but if you look at budgets and if you look at the families, they sometimes say, well, I just buy my son a sim and then let's see what happens if you have more chance to drive on a real car, actually. So I would say it's good to have both, but if you see now how the world is, I think more actually use the sim like I do. I never did it before for training, and it's a great opportunity that we have this now.
Yeah, I mean, especially like say Formula One, for instance. The state of the art simulators they have at all of the respective teams are state of the art, really. And you don't just have the main two drivers that are running in that squad. You also have the development drivers. You'll have simulator drivers as well that will try and give feedback when they put certain situations, and there's so much detail. And I think the first time I ever got behind the wheel of a simulator was on R Factor 2, and I just went, let's just have me just being me. I can't drive on a simulator. Well, if push comes to shove, I think the best I did end up at a race spot broadcast, folks, where I was. They went, oh yeah, Porsche Cup, and then I looked at who was in the field, and I went, no, no, no. It was like Josh Rogers, Luke Bennett. I was like,
Mm.
no way am I competing against these guys. So I went for the GT4 on iRacing, and then realised R Factor 2 is very different to iRacing, especially when you have to wait for the car to get to the optimum rev range. And I decided I'll go with the BMW M4. Went through into Redgate at Donington Park, tried to downshift, went, that's not working. And for me, I think R Factor 2 is the sim that I've tended to use the most. I've been on ACC, which I really really enjoy, and I love the amount of detail that's in it. But I think what was it we had at that point? This is before all the British Touring Car DLC came out on R Factor 2, and we had a car that was very similar to Colin Turkington's BMW from West Surrey Racing. I can't remember the track, and I'd qualified 11th, which I thought, how did I do that? Everyone else was getting track limits, so the laps were getting disallowed. And I got to one particular part of the circuit, and it was this really tight right-hander. Um, it was just like literally just sort of like a triangle sort of corner, and I went, oh, okay, right, fine. I get hit from behind in the rear by three cars that are trying to go three wide into the same corner, and I end up in the barriers, and then I've gone like, I could have got on
Yeah.
top three. I could have got on top three. So that competitive nature comes out, and I just thought that's not going to happen in the next race. And I made sure that the back end of that car was as wide as humanly possible. I think I got like top six or top seven. So I was pretty chuffed with that. But like I said, Laura, simulators, and you're seeing so many big names with teams as well. Tony Kanaan, Romain Grosjean, Jenson Button. They're all like, they all use sims. They all bring all these great talents to the fore. Simulator training, especially like say for the Nordschleife, is
Yep.
is always one where you have limited testing. You get behind the wheel of the sim. You put the force feedback as high as you dare, unless your name is Jimmy Broadbent on the Le Mans Virtual 24 Hours and end up with Robert Wickens, 100% force feedback, and yeah, that doesn't quite work out. But it is quite an efficient tool. I mean, how many hours did you probably put in for last year's 24 Hours of the Nordschleife? Would you say,
3 hours.
considering the
Literally. Yeah, I literally had no time because I was working crazy before the race, and I thought, okay, Wednesday I have to just sit in the sim. Wednesday is my day, otherwise I can't make it. I sat down 3 hours, trained the start, trained the night, try to overtake multiple classes, and try to make it work. And on Friday I sat in the car for the qualifiers. That's it. Yeah,
Mamma mia,
yeah.
that's yeah. But also, let's take a look a little bit further back. You also had the opportunity to compete in Dubai. Now, was that the Dubai kart drone by any chance in the 24 Hours of Dubai in 2014? Because you actually had a sports injury the year before. When it comes to rehabilitation from a racing driver perspective, um, how mentally taxing can it be when you pick up an injury through a sport that's not necessarily related to racing, but it's one of those things that sort of puts a bit of a stop on progress that you've made working towards that goal?
It was a setback, I have to say. Initially I thought, okay, well, it happened. I shouldn't have done this sport probably because I wanted to continue with motorsport, but I also loved the other one. So like, okay, you have to stay fit, and you don't want to put yourself into a bubble and just try to avoid everything what can happen, because you can make a wrong step and you just break your leg, kind of thing. So actually, in the first place, when this happened, I felt like, yeah, this is in 2 months I'm back to it. But the psychological thing, and it was a cruciate ligament kind of operation I had then, I thought it will be easy to go back, but your body says, well, no, this knee is not working. I'm like, yeah, yeah, it should be. But you try to push yourself too far, and then always people stop you and say, look, you have to be patient, which I don't have. I don't have any patience when it comes to myself. And I had to just really work towards this goal to say, okay, my operation was in February 2020, 2014, and I wanted to be back in the kart as soon as possible. And I had the race in December. So I wanted to make sure that at this time I was fit enough to do it. So my goal was then, okay, I have to just get a boundary to myself to say, okay, I know when I have to push and I know when I have to stop. And this now helps me going through the process to know when do I need a rest day and when do I have to push, especially in my day job and in my life where I have so much things going on. I have a busy schedule, but I like to be busy. So for me, this is not a problem. But my body really tells me at one point, okay, now you just don't do nothing, sit on the couch. Okay, then I have to do it. And this is fine because then you know you can recover from anything.
Yeah, I mean, I tore the patella tendon doing martial arts back in, oh crikey, I'm really showing my age now, about 30 years ago. I just recently qualified as a registered black belt. I was doing some shadow sparring, did a kick that went wrong, knee went one way, foot went with the other, and then the next thing you know, I can't remember anything about what happened apart from the fact I was in an ambulance on my way to the local A&E. But yeah, like you say, us people in motorsport, sometimes we can get quite impatient.
Yeah.
I'm like quite impatient waiting for things to firm up for 2024. But it just goes to show that we are, there's a particular hashtag that you have, passion per definition. And that very
Yeah.
much is personified in what you've just said there. It really does go to show folks that us lot that work in motorsport, we want everything to like be around here. Like Laura, you want to be back in the F1 paddock again for 2024. I want to be back at a karting circuit, which will be happening with the Champions Winter Trophy at Karting Genk. It is going to be a very, very busy season for us all. But with regards to what's the outlook for the future in terms of racing, like you say, with regards to competing this year? Because not only, as you say, you're doing the F1 Paddock Expert hosting, you're doing presenting, you're doing commentary. not just sim racing but IRL, and then to juggle it all with an events management job. I would imagine that no 2 days are the same for you, are they?
No, and really lucky that I have the boss who says, "All right, you can do this, and everything is compliant with this." But I dedicate my entire vacation to be in the paddock, so I don't literally have vacation where I say, "Well, I'm just now 1 week or 2 weeks off." No, I'm not, because these days I take off, I'm at the racetrack, which is not the worst. Yeah, I mean, for me, this is also kind of a vacation, and it's a goodie because I can travel and. This year there are pretty cool races on my calendar already confirmed, so it will be a busy season, but I like it. But yeah, I don't really have a break, and my full day job is also kind of challenging, and I have to just juggle around my calendar and to see that nothing is overlapping. And if I want to race, I have to finance the budget, and this is why I have multiple jobs. Then, of course, to get the budget right. So I do hope that I have the financials to race the 24 hours this year again, because this is my dream where I want to drive in. Other things are not possible. And I want to do maybe a cards 24 hours again. So it's I have to see where the budget is coming from, and this is just purely me working for it. So there is nothing else I can spend on being on a fancy vacation. Unfortunately, yeah, it's how it is. I have to sacrifice a lot, but luckily I have friends and family who understand that this is my passion. I want to live right now until it's over at one point, right? Because we know at one point, yes, it will be different, and motorsport can be changing in these environments quite quickly. So until I can do it, I'm willing to give it all.
Yeah, I mean, I completely understand that because up until September 1st, 2020, I was in exactly the same situation. I think the last holiday that I had was in April 2019, and that was basically for a wedding trip. My sister and my brother-in-law were getting married, and I was not only doing my full-time job. For those wondering what I was doing at the time, I was working for MSX International, who are a big automotive service provider. And at that point, I was working for the Jaguar Land Rover Global Warranties Department. And not only was I using when German claims came along, or Austrian, or whether it was for like Germany, Austria, or any German-speaking country, the claims would get forwarded to me, and I'd be like, "Oh right, okay." So I've got to do all the translation and actually then respond to them. So I understand from Laura's situation that some of us don't have a consistent income to because we all have homes to keep over our heads. We still have energy, internet, food, clothing, transport, all that kind of stuff to worry about. So folks, not everybody in motorsport is going to be full time in this industry. Like Laura is a perfect example of that. And I know that through my own struggles. I spent probably, what was it, the best part of nearly a decade getting into this industry. And then the COVID-19 pandemic gave me my opportunity by being made redundant. It was the first ever time I'd been made redundant in my career. And my dad said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Well, Dad,
That's
I'm
actually.
I'm at that age where if I don't do it now, I'm never going to take that plunge." 3 weeks later, I had 3 social media clients signed up. And that was because of the fact of having that passion, that dedication, and that will to want to go and do it. So it does go to show, folks, that Laura's proof of this, that you can still do a very busy full time job. Yes, you're going to make sacrifices. Yeah, you're not going to go over to like take a 2 week break somewhere nice and sunny and get a tan and come back and then realize, what have I eaten whilst I've been away? That's the first thing that you worry about. But then also it's about just making having an understanding boss. At MSX International, the team that I was working with through the Ford warranty approval program, I was dealing with Germany and Austria predominantly for claims. And at that point, they went, "Well, if there's no claims coming through, you can do whatever the hell you want." So I was still doing motorsport work while still getting paid, which is, and I had an understanding boss, and I said, "Look, can I take the? I need these days off. I need these days off. I've just had this come through." And I was using all my holiday up as well. So when it came to Christmas and New Year, You've got no choice. Either you're rotated on or you're rotated off. It doesn't matter. So, and I have to say credit to you, Laura, for doing what you do and do it so damn well. And it's great to showcase. As I said, not everybody is full time in this industry. People are still working to make that breakthrough. And I know for a fact that Laura, in probably not in the not too distant future, will be one of those people that will make the transition full time. Believe
Thank
you
you.
me.
Would be nice.
Yeah, but it's as we said earlier in the conversation. It's like right place, right time, right set of circumstances. Um,
And the right context. That's what you also can tell, right? You have to know the right people, and this is where you build up your own network while you're working. So this is a constant hamster wheel.
exactly. Um, I also wanted to talk to you about the Sparks and Splitter program that you and a couple of friends decided to create in 2022. Of course, you're a big supporter of Susie Wolf's Dare to Be Different scheme. Of course, now Susie Wolf is the manager of F1 Academy, we've just seen a lot of great signings, including Dorian Pin now being signed and is going to be representing Mercedes in F1 Academy, which is I'm really really excited about. Also, one of the original Iron Dames as well. So shout out to likes of Rahul Fry, Sarah Bovie, Michelle Gatting, who I'm looking forward to seeing in a Lamborghini this year. Um, it, it was great to sort of see that Dare to Be Different has always been able to try and push forward um, more representation, more diversity, which you and I both know is quite severely lacking within not just in real life motorsport, but also within the sim racing community as well. What was the decision to create Sparks and Splitter, and how has that sort of impacted those people that decided to fill out the forms as well?
Yeah, the fun stuff was we were thinking about, okay, now we have, this was during COVID time, we have the situation that no race is happening, and we try to get some credits to the drivers who also had nothing to do, and also the fans who were desperately looking for news and updates. So we just created this just for fun. Just created a website for our own budgets just to interview people and to see what they have to say about. It was more like a in between podcast kind of commentary or press release, what we wanted to call it. So it was a mix of everything. But we wanted to showcase that there are people out there who have, yeah, a great portfolio and they wanted to be seen maybe. And this was really purely for the fans. That's why we just made this questionnaire up and say, look, what are you interested in? What do you want to hear? It's not like the standard press coverage, like, okay, this was a race, this is how it happened. But ask the questions you want to ask your favorite driver, which you normally don't have access to it. Maybe the same what we had. Where initially, when we talked about the big players in motorsport, I would never approach a person and ask them for advice or ask them any questions because you'd be like the super duper fangirl, right? But
Mm.
in this place, it was more like a motorsport person talks to a motorsport person and but about the fan question. And this was why we wanted to create this channel. Unfortunately, we had to stop it at one point because racing was back to normal, and then of course the fans could go back into the pits, which was nice. But as this period was quite quiet, we thought it's a good idea, and to seeing it from a fan base perspective.
Yeah. I think really I've just got a couple more questions before we finish what's been a really really wonderful conversation. Um, what what motivation or what advice would you give to any young women out there who are wanting to pursue their dreams, be it in commentary, be it in presenting, be it in racing? What advice would you give to those young hopefuls out there in terms of pursuing their dreams?
Yeah, the most important thing is you have to first know who you are. So just don't try to copy someone, try to be yourself. And then you know what kind of portfolio you have for yourself. Where are you good at? What's your ultimate goal where you want to be in? And try to fill in all these gaps which brings you towards this goal. So for example, if you don't have a full skill set for one thing and you think, oh, I need to learn this and this more, just try to ramp up your portfolio yourself and then push for it, because I do get so many requests from people saying, well, I have no budget, it doesn't matter if it's a girl or a boy or whoever, it's just I don't know how to start. I can't finance this. So it will always be just a dream. Yes, it also was a dream for me. And I'm not coming from a rich family. And my family had no connections to motorsport. They don't know who to talk to. And I'm not financed. I don't have sponsors, right? Who just finance me everything. So I needed to find a way that I can finance it with my own budget and that I can make my own way, because everyone has an individual path where they start, where they come from. So it doesn't really matter where you come from. It really matters, can you put yourself out there and stick to what you want? Because what I also sometimes see, if people start with one thing, they drop it, do the next one, they drop it. So there is no contingency. And I was offered multiple times different race seats for one or the other race, which has nothing to do with racing on a Nordschleife. And I always said, okay, yeah, it would be great to drive as much as I can, but why should I drive in this car on that track, which doesn't help me to get to my goal? So I declined all the other offers because I knew my ultimate goal was to save money, to drive 24 hours. The same in commentary. I was not appointed. I was appointed to this. I had no idea that this is something I could do. So be open-minded and see the chances you've been given. And even if you think first time, it's not me, I can't do this, I don't feel comfortable, just put yourself aside and just do it. This is the only thing what gives you the ultimate purpose, that you say in the end, I have done it, I want to continue, and this is giving you so much that you will never regret it. And even if there is a setback, as you mentioned, we all have them, but just stick with it.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect way in which we can actually end episode 50 of Commentator's Corner. Folks, if you want to follow Laura on the respective social media channels and also check out her website, they are in the respective descriptions. Laura, thank you so much for being a guest on half a century of Commentator's Corner, and I wish you all the very best of luck for 2024.
Thanks, Alex. It was really nice to talk to you and great questions, and we should continue. Great job and good
Definitely.
things.
We
Good
might have to
journey.
do part 2 of this, folks, but that's it. And as I always say, stay tuned for more episodes. We are gunning for that century. We're going to try and make sure that we can at least beat Lewis Hamilton's all-time record when it comes to episodes in comparison with race victories. But as I always say to close out every show, if in doubt, flat out, see you for episode 51, coming soon.